Paintball nerd.
Today's guest on Paintball Nerd started playing paintball in 1995. He went pro in 2002 with the Bushwackers. He's played for Aftershock. He's played for Dynasty. He's the owner of Team Aftermath. He's the owner of the WCPPL and the USXBL. And he's the new coach for AC Diesel. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the show, Mike Hinman.
Hey, brother. How you doing, man?
What up, playa?
Dude, same old.
You know, we were talking a little bit earlier. You're the oldest friend I have in paintball.
Lucky to be that, my friend. Lucky to be that.
So back in the day, there was San Diego paintball, which is Velocity paintball today.
Yep.
And I remember I had first made friends with Truman, who was, the kid that was running the shop. And we were cleaning guns in the back one day. And then one day, this guy named Mike Hinman rolled up. And this kid named Andy and this kid named Sean. And these are tournament guys. And I was learning about, you're telling me about Sick and Twisted. And he had this autococker with an electronic frame on it. And I was just like playing with it. And you were talking to Truman. And I don't know what you guys were talking about because I was playing with this gun. And then he goes, Zyzek, this gun has a little micro switch in it. Every time you click it, it makes this little noise that goes click. And it's just click, click, click the whole time I'm talking. I'm like, oh, dude, I'm sorry. I'm just, I was messing with your gun. But dude, like you showed me tournament paintball. I remember the Sick and Twisted kids were having tryouts at San Diego paintball in the spool field. And you let me come out. I had a Spider compact with like the CO2 tank straight down vertical. And you didn't judge. You're like, just go out there and have some fun. And dude, Andy, people know him as Fish, was just destroying people. Like he was just going up and running through and bunkering people. And I had never seen a kid my age play like that ever.
Reckless abandon.
Yeah. And at Borderland, I saw some like dudes on Navarone do that. And I was like, whoa, that's crazy. But Andy was the first person I saw like go after it. And I was like, I remember telling you, like, I don't think I'm ready to play with these guys. And they're like, oh, that's all good. No worries. And that's how I ended up on the Sitting Ducks.
With Rusty and Gator and Whisper and Chucky.
Yep. Chucky, dude.
I have him on social media. I see him on Facebook all the time.
Is he still playing?
Oh, I don't think so. No, I think he's living out like Missouri or something like that.
But it's crazy, Mike, how many people you've impacted in paintball.
It seems to be a discussion my girlfriend and I have all the time. And I think I downplay it a little bit. And she probably is just totally honest about it. But yeah, I've been here for 8 years. I'm sure definitely. And paintball is like the most fun a lot of us have had in our lives, right? Like it's the one thing that is like always brings us back, right? It's our center sometimes. Crazy to say that, but no matter where we go in different angles of life, we always seem to come back to paintball. So,
dude,
yeah, no, I've been blessed, right? Like, at the end of the day, I don't think when, it's time to check out of this place, I don't think what's in your bank account or how much you were worth is really going to mean that much, right? Like the people that you positively affected and, blessed and helped along the way probably will be the mark of how wealthy you really are. So in that respect, I think I've done okay so far, but I think the best is still yet to come.
Dude, you certainly impacted me. I don't even know if you remember this, but I like in the late 90s, my first NPPL tournament was when it was 10-man, was at SC Village, and I got my Angel stolen. And you gave me a die Ironman Angel. And you're like, just pay me whenever you can. And I like made payments to you over time, but like you hooked me up, dude. Do you remember this?
Vaguely. I mean,
vaguely.
To be totally honest, in all my years of doing paintball, I've been given so many guns. I've never sold a paintball gun. I've only given them to people. Like when I was coaching the Ironman and everybody gets a gun or two an event, or on Dynasty, we'd get a shocker or two event. I never sold a paintball gun. Like because if I got them for free, I gave them to other people for free.
Yeah. So I didn't get that concept. And you're like, just pay me whatever you can, whenever you can. And I was like, what?
It was a blue one. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And I made like a couple payments to you, I was a kid.
Right.
And then you're like, we're good. We're square. And it was just a total hookup, But dude,
I did that.
Yeah, me too, buddy. Cause I never forgot it, obviously. And I know, Mike, that you've done that for tons of people. You've helped out a lot of people in the sport, and some of the biggest names in paintball you've had a tremendous impact on. So
Yeah. I mean,
doing the
Mouse,
right
all the
thing,
kids
dude.
that came from Aftermath, I'm super. It was funny. Mouse was talking to me about it last week when we were having discussions about the coaching thing that was coming up. And we're talking about hungry, like pro players, like who, if there is somebody on the radar, who should they be? And, you know, Mouse is like, you know, I remember you always told me, like, any pro that's not willing to like give his gun to a kid to use or just be a good person to just a normal person, we didn't want him on the team. And like, that's just kind of how I see it. I mean, it's cool for those. I mean, you've been to the top, right? You've been at the top of the pro game. I've been there, coach, player, owner, whatever. But like, no matter how high you get up in this game, like we can never forget that first day of just how much fun we had coming home, watching dots fly into people. You know what I mean? Which is just what paintball really is. So I think in any facet of life, it's okay. Like people can get carried away, softball or bowling, whatever other sports you play that really aren't that cool, get carried away with their own ego. But I just, for me personally, try to not ever have an ego, try to just be a good dude to everybody. I think, you know, our media over the years that have like videos of me and totally like, there's times I've gone level 10 and I probably should have just kept it at like level 5. But that comes as, it's funny because you always see these clips of me like pissed off or angry or like the Mike crazy face. And I have that all on its own. But like you don't ever see the backstory to get there, right? Because even to this day, like there's, you know, Rainey or whoever, Marcelo will send a message, you know, around Christmas time, or like rest in peace, Bobby Aviles every year would send me a message around Christmas just thanking me for like pushing him to just be a better person. And there's definitely some Aftermath guys out there, ex-Aftermath guys that probably don't feel that way. And that's okay. I don't take it personal, but I know at the end of the day, everybody that I come in contact with, I try to leave them in a better place than when we walked into it, right? Like even now coaching a pro team, a lot of these guys, every one of them know how to play paintball at a top level. But, you know, if it was the NBA and you're scoring 20 points a game, how can I get you to 25 or 30 points a game or whatever the number is? As long as we're moving in an upward trajectory, there's something to look forward to in life. So no, I'm super blessed to be in this game. You know what I mean? Such a cool sport.
Yeah. I think it's certainly like universal for all the people that I know that you've brought up. It's universal that you were a tough coach to play for, but no one has said it in a negative way. They all have benefited from that tough coaching style.
You know,
it's funny because
this weekend, right? We get done with practice, right? So I'm coaching Diesel, and we're walking out, and a lot of the guys got to get on flights to get home because they're back in Texas or wherever. J-Rab, I think, is on the East Coast, so we're out of there about 1:30, and at ASG, we're walking. There's like a big walk-on area, and there's shade, so some of the Diesel guys are there, and like Alex Frage walks up, and he doesn't see me. I'm sitting by the owner, Wayne, 20 feet away, like broad, clear sight, but Frage doesn't see me, right? And he's talking about me being the coach. And it's one of those ones where you're like, shit, he doesn't realize I'm sitting right here. This is going to be so good if he says something. You know what I mean? Because I can definitely like just walk it behind him and grab a hold of him real quick and scare him. And but he said that. He goes, Mike's going to do a lot of good for you guys. He's like, he's a tough coach, and some of you guys may not like that. But you know what I mean? And like finally he realized was there, and he didn't say anything bad. But for sure, I'm a really passionate dude, and sometimes some people probably cannot absorb that level of passion. You know what I mean? That's just not how they were raised. I was raised a little bit different. Not saying one's right or wrong, but as I've gotten older, you know, you realize some words just don't get through to some people. So you just save those words. But even guys like Joe Barrett recently, like everybody's seen me get on Joe's case and give him an earful, you know what I mean? And I was talking to Joe for an hour the other day and just thanking me. Like now that he's with Infamous, he's like, you know, I really tried to bring the Aftermath work ethic over there. This weekend, we're playing Dynasty. It's an off weekend, right? They're on bankers hours, so they show up at like 10 or 11 or whenever and leave at like 1 or 2. And Marcelo's there at like 8 a.m, dressed out, ready to go, just standing there by himself. And, you know, I'm looking at him and he's like, man, this is how we were taught. And like, this is how you get better. You know, so yeah, stuff like that goes a long ways. And there's still kids in D4, the academy kids, D4, D3 that I'm helping locally just to teach. There's a lot of things from paintball that we can take into real life, right? Like really committed, like putting the time in, you know, it's like this day and age, 40 hours is a full-time job, but is it really a full-time job? Like
if you're working for someone else,
right? Like 40 hours is enough to get you through, but it ain't going to
Yeah.
get you ahead. Kind of like paintball. You know, you got to be the first there, last to leave, and really put the time in. So those are some of the things I've always tried to instill in people.
You have some good quotes too that are applicable outside of paintball. Like one of my favorites, my favorite Mike Hinman quote: "You want to make $1 million?
Start with 2."
That's right.
Paintball. No, it's funny. You know,
you've been saying that shit for years. Like when I was a little kid, you said that.
It's true though.
Yeah.
It's a tough industry to make real money. And it's more of a passion project for, I mean, most field owners, good field owners that we all love to go to, Wayne at ASG, Victory, whatever field you go to. Most of those people are not there to become millionaires. They're there because it's a passion fit or whatever field back wherever you're at, you know, like it's a passion project. They make some money, don't get me wrong, but they could go into a lot of other avenues of life, make the same money without working on the weekends and working all through the week. So I think to be a lifer in this game, you've got to be passionate, right?
You have to love it, you know, because the amount of effort it takes to be successful could be applied to another industry where you'd get
more return on investment.
Yeah, totally. You know, like if you're trying to open up a paintball store and you want to take 10% market share away from A&S and you want to do $1 million, well, you got to invest $900,000. And
you know what's crazy about A&S? You bring them up. I went in there a couple of years ago. I'd never been like inside A&S. We're holding the WC at Glensfield. We run out of paint, and I owned APX. We had no more paint. We shot so much paint on this one layout. So we call Pete and them and like, hey, we need to get some paint. And it was a Sunday or whatever. So the guy comes and opens the place up, lets us in, and I'm standing in the back of A&S, and I was like, and you know, my dad was a machinist at Dye. You've worked at Dye. And I'm sitting there looking up like 5 stacks deep on their rafters. And you're like, yep, this is where all the dye gear is. Like they have so much stuff in that place. And you're like, then you remember like those shows, like, you know, you got 30 seconds in a supermarket to get as much expensive stuff in a cart. And I'm thinking to myself, boy, give me 2 or 3 minutes in this motherfucker. Like in a cart. It'd be a couple 20, 30,000 in my cart real quick. They had so much.
How do they make money if they're just holding all that inventory? How do they make money?
I don't know because I've never directly dealt with them. But if I was a guessing man, I would bet that there's companies in our sport, other companies than the ones I named, that probably can't afford whole container loads from China of hoppers or goggles or whatever it is. So when somebody needs it, they probably sell 10, 20, 50% of the container back to the originator. And then they buy the rest, but at a much discounted rate. And then Pete's got money, right? Like the guys, listen, one thing I know about our capitalist society is money breeds money. So if you got a lot of money and you can afford to sit on something, as long as you're not overpaying for it, you're going to make some bread. So it was impressive though. Like you're sitting in there and you're like, you know, there's some skids of paint here and there, but I'm talking about like actual product. You're like, and this place is
stacked.
And I'm not talking about 1 or 2 pallet racks. I'm talking about like
deep.
Like it would have been awkward if I had walked through each one of them because there was that many. I still wanted to do it. So random size.
So you mentioned a little bit about you're the coach for AC Diesel. So how did that happen?
I mean, I think a lot of people out there know that Mark made some moves in the offseason to pick up some big name players, right? Mouse, J-Rab, Kyle Spica, Nico, A-Rod was there, right? And they
there? Or is he still there?
He was not there when I was there, and I don't believe he's there anymore.
No more A-Rod?
No, I don't believe so.
Interesting. Did he quit or get cut?
I don't think he quit.
So, okay, well, anyway.
I just think there might have been some personality. There's a lot of guys there, right? Diesel had a really good team. Yeah. And then you add a bunch more guys to it, and you're getting to a point where, you know, 7-8 seems like a really good number. If you got some old guys, you know, like Damage has got some older guys that life, not in a negative way, guys got some work, whatever. It's good to have 10. But I think Diesel showed up with like 13, 14 to the beginning of the season. Just too many guys.
Dude, you know what? Kyle was saying at the last event that AC Diesel's becoming more of a do your job type team. And he made a comment, and I didn't think about it at first, but he made a comment that A-Rod's more of a freestyler, like go up to center, find something and like make something happen. whereas their team is evolving to more of a do your job type team. And I didn't make the connection then and there, but how long ago did this happen?
I really don't. I don't have access to the team chat before I got on it, and I didn't really ask.
He was gone before you showed up.
100%. Like,
gotcha. Okay.
Way out of. If I had been there, I've always gotten good like response and results out of A-Rod. I mean, we've not always seen eye to eye on everything, but on the field, he's done a good job for every team. Like, he was part of Aftermath. I would have. It's different now, right? Like Aftermath, it's different when you're paying $100,000 or $150,000 a year, and when you're not paying any money and everything's being covered for you. And now you just have to show up. You don't like. I'm not trying to say our sport's like a professional sport like the other ones, but for me, I don't have to worry about the roster. Like, here's a list of names that are going to be here. These guys are all healthy. That's who's going on the field. Put the best product out there. It's just, for me, you don't become overwhelmed with this or this guy's doing this. Like this, the little, you've been part of a pro team. It's the little things that kill. We all get X, and then this guy takes X plus 2. And you're kind of all looking at him like, hey, man, or he doesn't show up to practice or shows up hungover or whatever it is. I don't have to deal with any of that. Like, I can honestly look at Mark and say, hey, man, if you want to tolerate this stuff, we can do it. My 2 cents, this is why I wouldn't do it. But I feel way better about the dynamic of not having to deal with the stress.
Yeah.
Just that simple, right? Like, and Mark's a good dude. Like, we battled Diesel head to head our semi-pro year when we got our spot. And almost every tournament we had to play them. And it was a 1-point game back and forth every time. Like, it was just, when you go to war against somebody enough and they're proper villains, you get a respect, right? Like, same for you on the Ironman. I'm sure there was teams, whether it was Dynasty or whoever it was, where you're like, man, I want to beat these dudes. But at the end of the day, we're still friends. And I really respect you, because Mark's always just been a stand-up guy. And I told Mark, I said, if you ever need help, please call me. Like, I'm not going to charge somebody to coach the team. That's crazy. You know what I mean? Like,
well, it's not super crazy. I think you should have done it.
Nah.
Ask for a little.
Mark, a couple Chick-fil-A sandwiches and we're good. You know what I mean? Like,
I know you love Chick-fil-A.
Bling, bling.
So is Paulie involved? Is he helping you, or you're the lone coach?
Paulie's still involved. I think, Paulie's got a lot on his plate too, out in Texas with the USXBL. I mean, he's a core salesman, so there's a lot for him to do with the company. You know what I mean? And I think there were some issues at the last event, nothing to do with Paulie or the team. Booth got messed up, and you guys had the bad weather that hit Austin and like smashed a bunch of stuff. So yeah, he's still going to be there, and I'm sure he's still going to be putting input in on what's happening. I just think, there's a lot of personalities on the team, right? And I get along great with the personalities, but no 2 coaches will do anything the same. Me and Rich Telford would do things differently, even though I learn a lot from Rich, and I don't know if he ever learns anything from me, but no 2 coaches will do it the same. So I think at some point there probably has been the success the team has wanted so far, and maybe sometimes just a different person saying the same thing has different results.
True. Yeah. Dude, I can't wait to see what you do with the team, because it's certainly got the talent. Like, but leadership certainly matters, dude. Like, no doubt. So I can't wait to see what you do.
Yeah, hopefully, right? Like,
what's up with the USXBL? What made you want to acquire that?
I mean, I would say on the West Coast, we have 99% of every X-ball team. I mean, there's a couple that don't play with us, but anybody with about an ounce of common sense plays in our league. And it's our league because it's all of our league, because they all have a voice in it. And we've kind of maxed this out. So we've looked at, there's not a lot of teams past Arizona, like Phoenix. New Mexico's got a couple, but Texas has always been, if we're going to go anywhere, you're not going to pass Texas, right? Like, you're going to go into Texas first. So we've been thinking about it for a while, and other people were going to do it, and we kind of stepped back and let them do it. And Rab, my dad was a machinist at Dye. Rab was a salesman at Dye. Justin, me, Brandon, Steve, my dad, Aaron Carter, all lived in Aaron Carter's house together. So like, we go so far back, and Steve's got a legit like high power rifle company, Dakota, or Park West Arms. It used to be Dakota Arms, that he's really focused on, and he's out of paintball. And I think he's been looking for an out, and we've talked a little here and there, but this year, I think their numbers have kind of slid downhill a good amount, and the number became a right number, and Steve wanted out. So we went out there, myself and Tracy, a couple weeks ago, and got the deal done. And I think it was Memorial Day, and thought we'd take a step out there,
So are you gonna keep it the USXBL, or are you gonna kind of
for
absorb
now,
it into the?
For now, like WCBL is kind of a tough name to take to Texas, right? Like it's the West Coast Paintball Players League. If we had a more vanilla name, it would probably be easier for us to just adopt it everywhere. The USXBL, to be totally fair, I think you could refer to it as a distressed asset, right? Like it was taking on some water.
Mm-hmm.
Might have been the Titanic. Like it was taking on a lot of water. I don't know. But, my thing is you just got to own it, right? Like if you own a company that's made mistakes or you as a man or woman that have made mistakes, you got to kind of own it, right? Hug the cactus and just take it. You know what I mean? And like our country, there's, everybody gets a second or third or fourth chance. So for us, we maybe at some point we build a company or a name that makes sense for all of them, but there's a lot of history. There's 13 years of history with the USXBL. And, I think in paintball, when something has gone bad, very rarely is it 90% bad. We're talking about the 5% that's industry accepted bad becomes 10%, which is unsustainable, and people don't like that, so they go somewhere else.
Yeah.
So for us, I still think there's a ton of positive that happened with that league. There's 13 years of history that you cannot deny. There's 13 years of champions that need to be remembered. And for me, like the WC, we've been 15 years or whatever now, going into 16. They're at 13. It just made more sense for it to be its own league. And it's not like it's going to be the West Coast stepchild or anything like that. That's its own region that needs to stand on its own. And then hopefully at some point in the next year or so, or whenever our economy is good or it feels right, do something to cross the two over, right? Because I'm sure Texas teams don't want to just play the same Texas teams. Like
exactly.
Us back here in Cali, back in the Raza days, we'd go out and it'd be like, oh, there's Bob, LTZ, Legacy, Ironman, and Dynasty. Sweet. Hopefully we're all not in the same bracket again because we fly across the country to play each other. When you're from a region, you want to play other teams and just get other looks and be the best. So I think our long-term goal is to build that region up. Luckily, we have some field owners out there that are willing to work with us and help us, and it's financially feasible for us to do it. We pay a lot more money out here, not in a negative way. It's just California, everything, it's just an expensive place to do business. So it's kind of,
I'd like to see another entity, right? Another tournament have a pro league that puts a little fire under the ass of the NXL and forces them to either be better I think competition is necessary. I don't know if I like.
In every facet of life, competition is a good thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it really is. And it's uncomfortable, but there's a million, Michael Jordan quotes that we can put about being uncomfortable and growth and champions and all that stuff. But the truth of the matter is in life, just like us as men, as fathers, as whatever, there's always competition out there. Right. And if we remember that and we use that to be better, then we're all in a good place. I think the problem in paintball that we may run into, and people think that like we could sustain 2 national leagues. I don't see it. I think both a war of that magnitude would put everybody down, right? An eye for an eye would leave us all blind. So for us, maybe at some point we run a open division or where pros could come play once or twice a year. But that's even a tough one because 2 years ago, Meter did 80 Astra in Texas, and it was basically like the bottom 10 pro teams, the top semi-pro teams, and everybody said they were going to back them up. And at the end of it, there was only 10 teams there, and Meter being Meter made sure the money was real, but he lost his ass on it. You know what I mean? Yeah. And that's a tough one in our industry is a lot of people will say they've got your back, but they don't really got your back like that. So, and for us, our business model isn't to go after the NXL. Like Tom Cole every year has given us the dates a week or two before everybody else gets them so we can start working on our schedule because there is a pecking order, and the NXL is the big show and we're the second biggest show. So naturally we wait our turn, and we in years past have had other local events that have asked for dates. And it's like, man, once I get them and we get rough outline of ours. Give me a day or two. We'll get dates on the board, come back and look. Is that Mother's Day? Is that graduation? Is that Final Four? Whatever weird subculture thing or subsection things we have going in our culture. And then we give them to the locals as well, so I hope Tom and I work. Tom was the first person I called with the USXBL. I just said, hey man, and he was in Europe. I just want you to know this before you hear this. This is what it is. And then other Giant knew about it, which has our competition league in it. Not saying that they're really competition or I'm trying to compete with anybody, but we let the proper people know. We're not trying to. This is business, you know what I mean? And our goal is to build paintball.
Are you going to have a pro division?
We're not really focused on it right now. Next year, there's definitely some, I wouldn't say a pro division, right? We all know Dynasty, X Factor, the top pro teams, top 10 pro teams or whatever are legitimate pros, but you got some other teams in there that I know they're pro teams, but.
Yeah, we know. Everyone knows.
But there's what I'm saying is there's some of those pro teams that they have to go play fit and blast camp are going to have a hard time. And those are your two top semi-pro teams. So I'm just saying at some point it would make sense, right? To have some kind of a one-off event where you do something like that. And I think we have enough contacts that we could do something like that. But also we really don't. Small industry, man, and we really don't want to piss anybody off if we can keep from it, right? And for us, how much money do I give away? $10,000, $15,000 to a pro division? If I'm going to do that, why wouldn't I give it to the teams that I already have?
Right.
I don't need to buy friends at that level. I'm friends with all those guys anyways, right? I would rather give that to a D4 or a D5 or a D3 or a premier team that I already have in my league. So that's kind of, and then we have our premier division, which is pretty much semi-pro at WC. So we'll talk to them at the end of the year. Hey, if we did do this, what does everybody think? And we take a lot of their input to get to our final product. So,
well, I'm excited, man. I'm excited to see what you come up with there with that acquisition and with AC Diesel. I mean, you're always working on exciting stuff. You had APX, you ended up selling that. So
started with two, came out with one. Boom.
Yeah, that's how it works in paintball.
Facts.
Well, Mike, dude, you got a ton of memories. You've been playing since '95. You played with the best players in the world. I know this will be difficult, but what is, just right now, what is your most fondest memory you have in paintball?
I mean, probably winning World Cup with Dynasty the first time, right? We beat the Russians, got on the team in Nemacolin. The Russians beat us. And this is the Russians that just come over, egg hoppers, angel drop forwards, looking goofy as ever. And they beat us, right? And we all came home from that Nemacolin, which was event 4, getting ready for event 5 at World Cup. And Dynasty was pretty hungry, right? The practices leading up were intense. And, we beat them. I'll always remember winning there because you were around back then. I mean, there was just so many people. The nets were pushing in. Our pits were pushing in because there was really that many people there. So that was big. And I got home the next weekend. I'm at the paintball field like a true dipshit paintball player. I didn't wash all my gear. So I get to SC Village the next weekend, right, to go right back to training. And the World Cup trophy was in my gear bag. And the one person that signed it, you want to guess which guy on Dynasty signed it? Oliver. It's got his signature on it. He's the only guy that ever signed it. But that was probably my fondest memory. But we all have so many. And same for yourself, right? If I asked you that question, you would come with a memory. But when you finish that sentence or that paragraph, you kind of get to the end of it in the back of your mind. And you're thinking, man, there's a lot of other really cool memories. You know what I mean? And
well, it depends on what memory you're in the mood for. Are you in the mood for a foreign traveling experience memory? Or are you in the mood for a big win memory? So it's I think it just depends on what you're in the mood for.
I mean, you brought up earlier, blessing all the people that I've been able to help along the way and people that I may not talk to. I said this one recently, there is no expiration date on friendship, right? So some people you don't talk to for 10 or 15 years or however long it's been. And then you see them and you're like, wow, man, how's life? I mean, I think those friendships that we all make in this sport is probably why so many people out there keep coming back to this sport, right? Like,
Yeah.
we have kids, we have wives, divorce, whatever, we move, we have career changes. But the one constant we always in the back of our mind are thinking paintball. I mean, we see it at WC. We see emails come in. I haven't played since 2005 or 6 or 7. And, I played with this team, but now I'm coming back to play. We see so much of it. So I think for myself, as we go forward, just trying to lock those people in to keep playing and trying to make a business model of this that makes sense for all of us so we don't get burnt, because we've both been there.
Yeah. Man, I cherish the friendship so much now that I think about it. Like, I took 10 years off of paintball, and then I remember the first time I saw you, we have this little inside joke that's like a little voice that we do, but I hadn't seen you 10 years, and I was behind you. I was like, "Dango, man, Mike Hinman, man, come around here." And you're like, "Dango, Zyzek, man," and like it's just like right back at it,
Yeah. No, it's truly, no matter how big or tough or whatever you are as a person out there, it's the one thing that I think can bring the most whatever person back to that place where, like, it's just probably the closest we get to being kids at heart, right?
Yeah, dude.
Like, we go back to a time when we were kids, and now we're just old kids. You know what I mean? So yeah, man, it's paintball, man.
Yeah.
And hopefully we can all grow it, right? Like, I feel like all of us that are out there in a position of any power that sit at the table, as we all call it, it's a duty for all of us, right? Like, no longer is it
for sure
Rennick Miller and Dave Youngblood and Adam Gardner. I'm not saying they're not still in the industry. I'm saying, like, there's a new batch of us that are out here that we have to do our best job try to keep this thing going forward and hopefully grow it, right? That's the key to it all, is that trajectory thing, right? Like, as long as we're moving in a positive uphill number, people are having fun, is kind of what we got to do. So kind of the hope, right?
Yeah. So Mike, after, all the people that you've played with, who's your favorite teammate of all time?
Well, I mean, you brought him up earlier, Andy, AKA Fish, which passed away many years ago. I mean, if I could have him back, anybody that's passed, of course, we would want him back. But, when you grew up playing with a kid like that, when we were just kids, driving a flatbed truck full of gear out to San Diego Paintball, Velocity Paintball, and Ramona, I'd have that back. I mean, it's tough, like, in the pro level to say who, because there's just so many good guys, like being back with Mouse is super cool, right? Like, brought him up, and being back with him now, and he's a grown muscle man.
He's crazy, dude.
Right?
It's insane.
I mean, I don't know if you can honestly put one. I mean, playing with Oliver was great, right? There were some things. There's the outside view of Oliver, and then there's those of us that know Oliver, right? And I'm not saying he's a bad dude, but, like, there was things that he was talking about back then on Dynasty that took me years to fathom. Because at that point in my life, I was just a caveman. You know what I mean? Like, I couldn't hear the enlightened one when he was speaking, you know what I mean? But years later, you look back, like anything in life, you have conversations with our parents or people that are grandparents that are no longer around, and you think back to those gems of wisdom that they gave us.
Starts clicking.
You really take it in, and you're like, man, that was deep, and I just wasn't deep enough to hear it.
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it. Man, I remember Andy was like, and I always knew him as Andy, and everyone started calling him Fish, like, later on. Like, I think when you guys were on the Whackers is when people started calling him Fish. But I remember, dude, he was always so hard, and I was, like, kind of scared of him because I watched him like lose his temper on some people. But whenever I interacted with him, he, like, was totally different. Like, his voice would change. Like, it'd be like we're kids again. And he never showed me, like, the tough side of him. He never, like, did that to me. He, like, never, like, raised up on me or anything like that. And it's funny because, like, you were the same way, Mike. Like, you would let some people have it. Like, and I remember, like, when you were on Dynasty,
like on Fish and myself, it's just a street.
Maybe.
This day and age, it's, like, cool to be from, like, the streets, right? Or the hood or something like that.
Sure.
But, like, the truth is, Fish grew up pretty tough life, and I grew up poor as hell. And I don't care where you come from or what race you are or whatever set you're from. You've either been poor or you haven't been poor. And if you've never been poor, you've never had to survive. And I'm not trying to I'm not saying other people haven't had it worse than me, but when you come from a place like that, it's very simple. Show me respect and I'll show you respect. Come sideways at me, then we like 0 to 60 comes real quick for some of us. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I don't think we ever look back at it like that's what we want to have. I would love every day if it was just butterflies and birds and, you know, like a nice little scene from a movie. But, you know, like I just, some of us are not going to accept our toes being stepped on. Right. And that's kind of how Fish was too. Right. Like he just, I have so many crazy stories about that dude that like,
maybe it was like a respect thing, or maybe it was just because like he, you know, knew me when I was younger. But you know, I always saw like he was sweet to me, you know.
Right.
And
you know, funny, there's a team from Hawaii that back in Mardi Gras they had come over, and some of the guys are still in Hawaii, still play paintball. And one of them recently sent me a picture because it was our first pro event in the NXL with Aftershock, and it was super gross, that event. Like I think it was last year they had it. It was just a mud pit fest, disgusting swamp out there, cockroaches in our rental cars. It was bad. And the guy sent me a picture of Fish recently of all of us together. And I mean, he was super happy, loving dude. You know, if he was your friend, he was your friend. If you wanted to make enemies, he had no problem I mean, man, we're at an Aftershock practice and he wasn't enemies with any of the old guys, but him and Danny Love got into it. And like, he's on top of Danny, just hitting him. And I'm like, dude, Rennick, first of all, is not a man you want to play with. Billy Saransky, Todd Adamson, like we are outmatched with these old guys, and they're all laughing about it. And I'm like, this shit is not funny. Like Fish has got his arms pinned, so he cannot get his hands loose to fight back. Like we have, and they're all like they're genuinely giggling. And I'm like, man, it was just a different time in paintball, right?
Totally.
That was who Fish was.
Man, I would watch you shoot people into the ground, you know, no apologies. Maybe even like a little side comment, like wear it or something, you know.
I was looking for
and and I remember like we were practicing at Hollywood Sports Park. You were on Dynasty, I was on the men, and I like ran through and you blew me to smithereens. And as I like ran past you, you're like, sorry, Zyzek, you kept running. And I'm like, no one gets an apology for Mike Hinman for overshooting except for me, you know. Yeah, man. Well, what about your favorite teammate? Do you have a favorite teammate of all time? How about favorite player to watch? We already did teammate.
Well, I mean, Mouse has got to be up there, right? We watched him all weekend. It's crazy, right? I was talking to my girlfriend, like his first ball is a highlight reel. Because, you know, he's in the snake, and snake players in paintball are like quarterbacks in the NFL, right? There's going to be highlight reels coming out of them. But like watching Mouse and the snake, like just the amount of one balls he puts on people. And he, to be fair to Mouse, it's not like it's a God-given gift. It is 100% his work ethic. And Mouse wows me all the time. A couple of years ago, we're at Camp Pendleton after Mouse practicing, and Mouse is there. And he's on one of the open fields that they never set up, just doing drills. And he had this whole obstacle course, running, shooting. And then he had 2 Doritos set up opposing each other, maybe 20 feet apart. And I think Spica or Brandon Cornell was in the other Dorito, waiting on the outside for him. So Mouse would shoot all these targets, slide in and come in and have to snap shoot one ball check, being out of breath. Like he would run all the way across the field through an obstacle course of cones, slide in. He wouldn't get shot coming in, but he had to come to the outside of it. And that's like me or you would be set up waiting for him and one ball check it until somebody got shot. And I'm looking at it like, man, I've done some pretty wild drills. Sick and Twisted days, we used to shoot each other until somebody gave up in the middle of the field right by registration. But like that one, I asked Mouse, like, how'd you come up with that? It's like, think about it, man. You're playing the snake. You're getting through Sunday. You're winded. That's when you need to be calm enough to win a gun battle. Because you can do all this, get to here and come up and get center punched. And what good does all that do? And I think with him, and it's funny with Mouse, right? Because there's always like an alpha male raising the bar, even though I never talk trap. He said this way, he's like, you know, I'm a better player than you were. And I was like, fucking Helen Keller could have seen that one. You know what I mean? Like your Mouse, you know what I mean? Like, but hands down watching him play. But again, no disservice, Steven Pitts, all the other guys that we had, no knock at them. Marcelo has turned into like just his level of IQ and leadership from who Marcelo was back at Velocity when his dad was there is just 180 degree difference. So there's Dalton, right? Dalton was the kid we sent to the Xbox because he couldn't really do anything else, and he would trade with somebody, right? But like watching all those kids, Damian Ryan, all the guys that kind of came through here, there's so many good ones. I don't think even a top 10 would be hard.
Do you like look when you watch these guys play that you've had a hand in their upbringing? Do you feel any sort of pride, or you're like
100%.
they've evolved past me, like past
100%.
what I can help them with?
Every weekend I see those guys, or if they're at a tournament and I'm back home watching Go Sports or whatever. I don't watch the whole day, but I'll click in, see who's doing it. I mean, Dynasty's been on a rampage. And like with Marcelo, you're just like, again, ... Congratulations again. Like, keep destroying everybody. Like when Mouse wins or Rainey or whoever it is, I'm always tell those dudes I'm super proud of them. There's no reason not to, because you just never know when it might be the last time you ever talk to somebody. So you just got to make sure you get everything out of the way. But there's not one of those guys that don't, even Dalton, like we don't talk. Dalton, I've never been super close, but he knows where we sit. You know what I mean? And I'm super proud of him. And Marcelo, like I said, when Dynasty shows up 3 hours after the kid's suited out and Marcelo's got a young kid, Ben, with him that he's teaching the Jedi ways, super proud of him.
Yeah.
And the academy, like there's a team, the academy, which is this local kids that work out. But in the off season, we all get together, Rainey, Mouse, Marcelo, all of us, and work out. And, they're all good dudes to the people around them, so I'm super proud of all those guys. Like, but, I say with them, like I showed them the door, they walked through it on their own. It wasn't me forcing them through it, right? Like those guys, because there was others that washed out of it, right? That couldn't handle the pressure I put on them. And that's not a joke. Like but the guys that did are now some of our top players in the world. And I'm super proud of those guys just for themselves, right? Because
for sure,
all of us have tests in life. And to know that you pass those tests, not that you have to quantify it with a number or anything like that, but to know you pass those tests in life. I'm sure there's a lot of people out there that have got those tests in life that we know we failed, right? So for those guys, super proud of them. Love all those guys. You know what I mean?
Well, I think it's like the old analogy that pressure turns coal into diamonds, And I think that's one of the coaching styles that you're known for is that pressure. And you're either going to crumble, or you're going to become something beautiful from that. Yeah. And you're right. You've had people fall out that, couldn't handle it. And we don't know those people's names anymore. Right.
Totally.
So
I know most of them. Every once in a while I see one of them and I'm like,
where are you at? What are you doing?
Good thing of a lifetime of not doing any drugs or anything like that. My memory isn't that bad.
What's your most cherished paintball item that you have?
Well, I have one Dynasty jersey, so I'm pretty stoked to have that because I never thought I always gave them away, right? Never sold anything. And like it always back then, paintball was a lot bigger than it is now. And it was Dynasty, right? Like they are the Yankees of paintball. And I'm not saying me. It was that brand was there before and after me. But I always gave my jerseys away, right? Like you'd see some kid that deserved it, take it off your back, give it to him. One year I won World Cup, the UK refs were over there reffing. And one of the guys asked me, they were having like a charity auction. Literally, we won in overtime, took my jersey off, handed it to him. So I just never had any jerseys. And luckily my mom had one of the purple Dynasty ones we did for 7-man. It was like a purple shade. And she offered it back to me. And I totally forgot I had given it to my own mom. So that's hanging up in my office. That's a big one. I have a jersey from all the kids. I mean, Rory and all those guys, I have them. I'm getting them all shadow framed in my house. It's going to look like a museum of whodunits. But those are all a lot, like Oliver. And then when they started the Hormesis thing, obviously there was a Hinman hammer headband, but they did one with my signature 102 for one. I think it was off the Dynasty shirt that they did with all the players and all of our signatures. Yeah. They sent me one. That means a lot. It's sitting up there. Brandon Unger gave me one of his Seattle Thunder Shockers when he went there. I mean, I've got a lot of cool. When my son Bryce was born, I etched his name into a gun with an Allen wrench. He was born early so I could make it to Chicago. We had him induced early, my first kid, and I etched his name into the little Dynasty plate that was missing, just says Bryce, because I was, kind of heartbroken that I wasn't at home with my child. And years later, somebody tagged me in like a PB Nation or a Facebook post of somebody selling this Dynasty gun. And Todd Martinez that had it stripped and re-anodized, it said Bryce Hinman on the frame, the money maker. like, because Todd was doing that. Remember, he had like the meat hammer gun. I had one that was like bandana printed. It was like the first cool anodized aftermarket. And he had it done. Somebody, I think my ex-wife actually sold it, and I totally spaced it when we were getting divorced. Sold it to somebody. So it was all my like random shocker parts that I had. And I explained to the person, I said, listen, whatever price you want for that gun, do not sell it to anybody. Like, it's in my closet with my clothes in a shocker box. But that's probably a pretty prized possession that I have. I don't think it shoots or anything like that, but the fact that it was that gun and I got it back, pretty important.
So where the Dynasty emblem is on the shocker, that got peeled off and you etched his name there?
Yeah, with a small Allen wrench, I just carved BRYCE into the side of that emblem.
I love it, dude. That's awesome. You got to make like a video or a picture catalog of all the cool shit that you have.
I wish I had more, man. Like, I think when I got divorced, I just mentally checked out, and like all my cool Bushwacker stuff, and way before that all disappeared. And I'm sure she wasn't a nice enough person to give it back. But, none of us thought back then, like when we were I was in the pro division, you were in the pro division. None of us thought that it was going to be that important for us to cherish those memories. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like, we were so focused on making new ones. We just didn't think about the history of it. I mean, think of like back then. We could have won as Dynasty a tournament. And I could have said, hey, I'll give you $50 for every one of these jerseys, the whole team, and everybody would have been cool. What would that Oliver jersey be worth now? A rack, two rack, like, you know what I mean? But none of us thought back then that we should get a Maximus one and a this one and a Art Blonsky and a whoever. Like, we just didn't think about it, right?
Yeah.
We really didn't. So we all wish we had saved more cool stuff, but now we know. And if I see anybody's jersey, it's getting got.
I got to send you a jersey.
It's going on the wall.
Perfect. I'd ask you to trade, but I know you only have one left, so I won't do that.
So the Dynasty one I have. Hopefully my buddy Mark will get me one for Diesel.
So, Mike, what advice would you give to someone that wants to make it to the top of paintball? Like, if you could just wrap that up in like this nice little package, what would you say?
Outwork everyone. Simple. Just like life.
Yeah.
You want to be a millionaire? Outwork everybody. Outwork everybody. Like, I'm talking Elon Musk. I'm talking everybody. You have to work. I mean, you have to be an extremist in whatever it is you do to get to the 1% of what you're going to do. And paintball, the blueprint's there. It's right there. You know what I mean? Like, leave drugs, leave all the rest of it, leave anything that clouds your vision. And I'm talking relationships, nonsense, toxicity, remove all of it and focus on the job. And if you can do that, you're a couple years away from being in the pro division, probably, right? Like, it's not, it's not the hardest thing. Some of it comes down to being the guy that's always there, like yourself or myself, somebody believing in us. Todd Martinez believed in me and made the call, and I was on Dynasty the next day. So sometimes you have to have that, but it's always a tryout, right? No matter what team you're on. Sometimes you see these guys on teams just act like idiots, and you're like, man, I understand that situation's not good, but like, we're all watching you. And if you're that kid that's at the field, I mean, I was at the field at 6:45 on Saturday. It was the first car in the parking lot. Be the kid that's there before me, like Mike McCormick when he got picked up by us. He was the kid that was at SC Village helping me blow the fields up in the morning. I was like, well, fuck, if you got enough heart to be here and be the first one here, let's get out and start doing some drills. You know what I mean? So I think there's a clear path to success in this sport. And I think in paintball, a lot of people want to do it their way. Right. And the truth is that, like I said, that blueprint's already been done. I guess maybe you can do it your way. Again, the will of a human being is one strong force to deal with, but it's really already out there. It's really already been done. We've all done it already, just like the NFL. Are you fast? Are you going to really put the time in? Like, I'm talking videotape, all of it. Really dedicate yourself to your craft. And if you do that, sky's the limit. If I can do it, you can do it.
And I think the only way it can be done is if you love it. No one's going to put in the work necessary to reach the top. Like you said, you got to outwork everyone. You got to outwork everyone. And the only way that you can do that without giving up is if you absolutely love the sport.
Totally.
Yeah,
you can't be 1 foot in, 1 foot out in the sport. It's got to be all in. Like I said, you have to be extreme with it. You really have to dedicate yourself to it. But when we were young, that's what we did, right? dreamed of popping those 2,500 round RP sure cases like that.
Yeah. Exactly, dude. And dude, exactly right. So, and it's like you said earlier, like the amount of effort that you put into not just the paintball industry, but becoming a professional paintball player. If you were to put that amount of effort towards being a guitar player, you'd be a badass guitar player, right?
Well, 10,000 hours, right? It's going to take you 10,000 hours.
Minimum.
And then I think in this sport, the interesting part is it probably take about 10,000 hours to get there, another 10,000 hours to stay there. Because I see
how many hours does Dynasty have, right?
More than that, for sure.
How many hours does Ryan Greenspan have? He's a 40-year-old man.
It's a good question, but he's still one of the nastiest. I always say that with Ryan, right? Like if Dynasty just disappeared, right? Not saying broke up because I would never put that towards them. But let's just say just disappeared. Every single pro team in the league would call him.
Yes, no doubt.
So that tells you you're truly one of the greatest to ever do it.
Yeah. I think Ryan Greenspan is the greatest to ever do it.
Hands down. And just the length of time he's been doing it.
Yeah. And Mike, I believe that when Oliver was still playing with him. Like I still thought Ryan was the dopest. Oliver was special and he had this special way about him. And he still does. But
Ryan's IQ is second to none.
Yeah.
And that's a lot of people don't know how to take Ryan, like how he talks. Sometimes he comes off almost arrogant, and he's a good friend of mine. But it's just because Ryan, the way he processes it, we're still on page 1, chapter 1. Yeah. He's already on like page 37, chapter 6. He's so far down it. And it's not, it comes across a certain way to us normal people. But watching, like I was watching him this weekend, he's in a low body situation and this guy looks in or whatever, and Ryan just takes off. But I've seen him do it so many times where I think in his brain, he has
like a bird's eye view.
But he's doing the math on it. Like if I sit here and play counterpunch with you, you're going to beat me more times. Sooner or later, he's going to run down, shoots this guy, and then that dude spins on him, gets a major penalty, and they win the point because of it. Or if not, in Ryan's mind, especially in this X-Ball format, he knows the time is a factor too. So like, if we're going to roll the dice, let's just roll the dice and go. But he is truly crazy. And I mean, Dave Youngblood would say that, right? When he paid all that money to get Oliver, he knew in the first year he had made a mistake by not getting Ryan also.
Yeah.
So it's not what we say about ourselves. It's what others say about us in our absence. And that's what has been said about Ryan the whole time in his absence. But the fact that he's been a soldier for the Dynasty cause and it's not like people haven't offered him money. Ton of people have offered him money, but he's been true to his roots and true to his friends, and God bless him for it. Always
an incredible ambassador to the sport as well. Clinics all the time, going to scenario games. Like this man's showing up for paintball.
Yeah, 100%. And paintball needs it, and it's cool to see Oliver back out there, right? Yeah, like I know he's going on his Hormesis one-on-one tour that he's about to do. He was telling me some about it. Smaller fields, limited amount of bunkers, one-on-one, very simple for fields to set up and do. And it's easy to play one-on-one, limited, very small amount of paint. He was very excited about it. And I told him, I said, Oliver, whatever you do, if you're in a bus driving from town to town to town doing that, trust me, a lot of people are going to show up just to meet the guy. So stoked to see that.
Yeah, I love Oliver's passion with everything that he does. So it's like anything that he does, that he's going to put his best foot forward on it. It's going to be good. So I'm excited for the 1v1
monster's
tour.
Still inside there, right? Like he's
got
like everybody on the internet seeing there's a clip of him and Kyle Spica going standoff with each other. But afterwards, you see Oliver pretty swole up. You know what I mean? Like he's sucking in a lot of air. But that's like he's a competitor. He really is that dude.
Dude, I was gonna say that Oliver's lost a little bit of the fuck you, and then I saw the clip, and then he's saying fuck you to Kyle, and I'm like, dude, this has to be staged. There's no way like Oliver and Kyle were doing this in real life.
Especially those two, right? Kyle's like B-type personality, but no, it really went down like that. I was standing right behind the net watching, and I was just like, oh boy, here we go.
And I heard Oliver like, I didn't do anything. And I'm like, this isn't real, dude. This is fake.
That was real.
That's awesome. I love that they let the passion out every once in a while. Let it go.
Yeah. Mouse jumped right in the middle of it too. There was tons of passion flying around.
Yeah. If Mouse jumps in, I'm out. Like, I don't want to, get body slammed or anything.
Well, everybody was yelling
Big
at me,
boy.
and I'm like, man, I'm on the other side of the net. Like Marcelo and I have already decided when the fight breaks out, we're dancing partners. We're just gonna roll around, talk, hang out. Like, we don't want to go fight my friends.
Yeah. I don't think they'd ever go to blows, but fuck some bonus balls. That's good.
I'm telling you, bud, it was
give the
pretty
extra.
close this weekend. It was to the point we had to have Mouse take his gear off for a while.
Really? I just saw the clip. I just know what
Well,
the
it wasn't
internet
just
told
that
me.
clip. There was multiple. It was getting heated on both sides. It wasn't just one person. It was getting real.
Who else was getting heated? Mouse?
Yeah, Mouse got heated. Listen, I think the thing with the Diesel team is if you step on our toes, we will cut your foot off. You know what I mean? Like, there's two sides to every story, and I don't know if either side is wrong, but people want to.
What else was there?
What's that?
Besides Oliver doing, getting shot and then
you
shooting
watch
Kyle.
that video, though, at the end of it, Urina's over in the Dorito side just dumping on people for no apparent reason.
I mean,
in that situation, especially when we go past playing, the game's been stopped, goggles start coming off, people are just getting roasted with paint, and then you see everybody run across at him.
That's what I saw. I didn't see him shooting.
There was another one later in the day or the next day where somebody tried to run Mouse. He shot him, looked the other way, like put his gun the other way, still got shot from the player running him. Said, basically, F that. I'm not coming out because it's not like we're trading. My gun's over now and you're still shooting me. Ryan yelled at him to get out. Mouse center punched him twice in the face with his just bop, shut up. And it was like, oh. You know what I felt
Ryan ran Mouse and
no, not Ryan. One of the teammates did, but Ryan was standing right there and was like, you have a hit on you, get off the field. And Mouse was just like, fuck that. I'm not coming off, and just double popped him in the face. And I'm like, I felt like Lee Trevino and Happy Gilmore. I was just like,
man, I missed an awesome practice.
I told people, I said, when I'm the voice of reason, you've made some bad choices.
Yeah, there's a little bit too much heat going around if that's happening.
Yeah, it was, but then again, our practice was back and forth. They beat us 6-5 one set. The other set, I think we might have got a point. Like, it was very back and forth. So it was just competitive. But I would say this, at the end of it, Sunday, our guys had to fly out early. So we only got one set against them. We played 2 of the Ironmen, 2 of the Aftermath, 1 with them. We wish we could have got a second set in with them because we know it's a good practice. Like, it's a very competitive practice, and which is what everybody needs, right? You need to be pushed to be better. And it's the best team in the world, period.
Get outside the comfort zone. Another Mike Hinman quote. Can't grow inside here. You got to get out.
That's true.
What are you most thankful for that paintball's given you?
My life. Like, not my livelihood, but just the life as I know it. You know what I mean? There's no way I would be the human being I am today without paintball. And it's not even fucking close. I mean, I might still look like this guy, but I wouldn't be this guy inside here. You know what I mean? So all my friends, family, all of it, I mean, it's been the one Northern Star in my life guiding me on the path that I'm on, so
I love
everything. I've met my girlfriend through paintball. I've met everybody a lot of the people that mean something to me, I've met through this sport. So I'm not going anywhere. My last breath will be taken doing this.
I love it.
Yeah, it's kind of cool for all of us that came up as kids doing it, right?
Yeah.
Because we're going to see the length of our lives will be like truly a lifetime towards this sport. So, I mean, I don't think there's a day 365 that we're not thinking out here how we can make this game better or have more fun. I mean, I'm going to Mississippi this weekend for practice. Stoked. Hopefully I get some crawfish while I'm there, right? Not that I need to eat any more food, but Philadelphia. I just look forward to that camaraderie. Like, we all know there's something about Saturday afternoon, beat up, back to the hotel, going to eat at Chipotle or wherever we can get in quick and get out of quick, and those team meetings and 13 dudes farting in a hotel room meetings. You know what I'm saying? Like, second to none.
Yeah, it's the best.
It is.
Awesome, buddy. Well, Mike, man, thank you so much for your time here. Is there anything that you'd like to part with for the paintball community?
Nah, just appreciate everybody, man. Appreciate you. We've been friends, like you said, for over half of our lives. You're about one of the realest dudes there's ever been. Great friend, lifelong friend. You know what I mean? So hopefully everybody out here supports what you're doing, listens to what you have to say, because there's nobody better to tell the story than yourself. So just thankful for our friendship, obviously, and the fact that I get to be on here talking with you, and yeah, just everybody out there, man.
Thanks, buddy. I appreciate you.
Definitely. Likewise, brother.